What shapes your life more powerfully, your conscious choices or the invisible forces beneath your awareness? Welcome to the hidden world of the human mind, where the most important decisions happen without you even knowing it. You can purchase David Brooks' illuminating book, The Social Animal, through the link in the video description below. Now, let's dive into this fascinating exploration of human nature and discover the unconscious forces that truly drive our lives. Introduction: Beneath the surface. Humans are storytellers who craft narratives about being rational, deliberate decision makers. We believe our conscious minds are in charge, making choices based on logic and explicit reasoning. But modern research reveals a profound truth. The conscious mind is the smallest part of what drives human behavior. Beneath our awareness, a vast world of unconscious processing shapes our perceptions, judgments, and actions. This hidden realm isn't chaotic or primitive. It's sophisticated, pattern-seeking, and remarkably intelligent. Our deepest values, our strongest connections, and our most significant life choices emerge primarily from this unconscious foundation. David Brooks illustrates these insights through the fictional story of Harold and Erica, following their lives from birth to death. Through their experiences, we explore how the latest research in neuroscience, psychology, sociology, and other fields illuminates the hidden dimensions of human existence. Their story brings to life the invisible mental processes that shape our understanding of ourselves and others. The importance of early attachment. Our social nature begins at birth. Infants arrive with brains wired to connect, equipped with remarkable abilities to recognize faces, imitate expressions, and seek emotional attunement with caregivers. This isn't learned behavior, it's built into our neural architecture. The quality of early attachment relationships profoundly shapes development. Secure attachment, where caregivers provide consistent, sensitive responsiveness, creates a foundation of trust that affects all future relationships. Children with secure attachment develop better emotional regulation, higher confidence in exploring the world, and greater resilience during stress. Harold, born into a middle-class family with attentive parents, experiences this secure foundation. His mother intuitively provides what psychologists call contingent communication, responding to his needs in ways that make him feel understood. This early dance of attunement teaches Harold that the world is essentially safe, that his feelings matter, and that he can affect his environment. This secure base doesn't just make Harold happier, it fundamentally shapes his brain development. The neural pathways that form during these early interactions become templates for how he'll process emotional information throughout life. The unconscious patterns established in infancy create filters through which he'll interpret all future social experiences. Research shows these early attachments predict everything from academic success to relationship stability. A child's sense of being securely held in someone's mind creates the psychological foundation for exploration, learning, and healthy independence. This isn't simply emotional comfort, it's the essential platform upon which cognitive development builds. The social brain. The human brain evolved primarily as a social organ. Our massive neural investment in social processing gives us unparalleled abilities to understand others' intentions, coordinate actions, and create complex cultural systems. Harold's developing brain is specializing in exactly these skills. By age 4, he demonstrates theory of mind, the ability to understand that others have different beliefs and perspectives than his own. This cognitive milestone isn't just about being less egocentric. It's the foundation for empathy, complex cooperation, and the moral imagination needed for community life. Our brains contain specialized systems for social cognition, including mirror neurons that activate when we perform an action and when we observe someone else performing that same action. This neural mirroring creates an embodied simulation of others' experiences, allowing us to literally feel something of what they feel. Harold doesn't just intellectually understand when a friend is sad. His brain partially recreates that sadness within his own emotional system. This social orientation extends to our deepest motivations. The brain's reward systems respond powerfully to social acceptance and painfully to rejection. Neural scans show that social pain activates many of the same brain regions as physical pain, a connection that explains why exclusion hurts in such a visceral way and why belonging feels so essential to well-being. Even our capacity for complex thinking evolved within social contexts. The cognitive abilities we prize most, abstract reasoning, planning, metacognition, developed not primarily for technical problem solving, but for navigating increasingly complex social groups. Harold's intelligence isn't separate from his social nature. It's an expression of it. The development of character. Character isn't formed through conscious lectures about values, but through thousands of small interactions that shape unconscious patterns of reaction and perception. Harold's moral development happens less through explicit rules and more through the implicit curriculum of his home life. His parents model key virtues not by discussing them but by living them. When they demonstrate persistence in the face of challenges, fairness in resolving conflicts, or compassion toward those in need, Harold's brain absorbs these patterns at a level deeper than words. This education of the emotions happens largely outside awareness but profoundly shapes his character. Research shows that self-control, perhaps the most crucial character strength for life success, develops through consistent, predictable environments where small efforts are rewarded and impulses aren't immediately gratified. Harold learns to delay gratification not through willpower alone, but through unconscious regulatory systems built through repeated experiences. Similarly, his capacity for empathy develops through being understood himself. Having parents who accurately perceive and validate his feelings creates neural patterns that allow him to extend the same understanding to others. This emotional reciprocity becomes the foundation for his moral intuitions about fairness and care for others. Even Harold's sense of identity forms largely unconsciously. Rather than being constructed through deliberate self-reflection, his self-concept emerges from accumulated experiences of how others respond to him and how he affects his environment. His brain continually updates an implicit theory of who I am based on these social interactions. This unconscious character formation contrasts sharply with our cultural emphasis on explicit teaching of values. While conscious moral reasoning matters, Brooks emphasizes that character emerges primarily from the hidden curriculum of daily life, the emotional atmosphere of the home, the consistent responses to successes and failures, and the unstated assumptions about what matters most. Education and learning. Traditional education overemphasizes conscious, explicit knowledge, while undervaluing the unconscious, implicit learning that shapes most of our capabilities. Harold's formal education focuses almost exclusively on facts and concepts that can be verbalized and tested, largely ignoring the emotional and social dimensions of learning. Research reveals that effective learning engages multiple brain systems, including emotional networks that determine what's worth attending to and motor systems that create embodied understanding. When Harold encounters a teacher who ignites his curiosity about astronomy, his learning isn't just cognitive. His attention systems, emotional responses, and even postural changes reflect whole brain engagement. True expertise develops not primarily through abstract rules, but through exposure to thousands of examples that create unconscious pattern recognition. A chess master doesn't calculate every possible move, but immediately sees promising configurations based on implicit knowledge. Similarly, Harold's growing mastery in writing emerges less from memorizing grammar rules and more from absorbing countless examples of effective expression. The social context of learning proves crucial. Harold's motivation and performance are dramatically affected by whether he feels a sense of belonging in educational settings. Stereotype threat, the anxiety about confirming negative stereotypes about one's group, can significantly impair cognitive performance, showing how social identity unconsciously shapes intellectual achievement. Brooks highlights how education remains trapped in a Cartesian model that separates mind from body, reason from emotion, and individual from community. This fragmented approach fails to recognize that learning is inherently emotional, embodied, and social. Harold's most transformative educational experiences occur when teachers create environments that engage his whole being, not just his conscious, reasoning mind. Love and relationships. Romantic attraction operates primarily through unconscious mechanisms far more sophisticated than we realize. When Harold meets Erica, his conscious experience is simply one of being drawn to her. What he doesn't perceive are the complex systems evaluating genetic compatibility, status markers, attachment potential, and dozens of other variables that shape his attraction. Studies show that we form impressions of potential partners within milliseconds of meeting them, driven by unconscious pattern-matching systems that compare them against internal templates. These templates themselves formed unconsciously through early attachment experiences and cultural exposures that shaped Harold's implicit model of an ideal partner. Beyond initial attraction, relationship success depends heavily on unconscious emotional synchrony. Harold and Erica's compatibility stems less from shared interests or conscious values, and more from how their emotional regulatory systems interact. Their nervous systems literally co-regulate, with each partner's physiological states influencing the others in complex feedback loops that occur outside awareness. Communication between partners happens primarily through nonverbal channels, facial expressions, voice tone, posture, and timing, that transmit emotional information more powerfully than words. When their relationship struggles, the problems typically manifest first in these unconscious signals before either partner can articulate what's wrong. Attachment patterns established in childhood profoundly influence adult relationships. Harold's secure attachment history enables him to maintain connection during conflict, while Erica's more anxious attachment style activates intense fears of abandonment during disagreements. Neither fully understands why they react as they do until they recognize these underlying patterns. Successful long-term relationships aren't maintained through romantic passion, but through what researchers call positivity ratios, the balance of positive to negative interactions. Couples who thrive maintain at least 5 positive exchanges for every negative one, creating an emotional climate of goodwill that buffers against inevitable conflicts. Brooks shows how our cultural narratives about romantic love, emphasizing conscious compatibility and communication, miss the deeper unconscious dimensions that actually determine relationship success. Harold and Erica's journey illuminates how partnerships flourish not primarily through deliberate effort, but through aligned emotional systems and unconscious attunement. Career and achievement. Traditional models of career success emphasize conscious goals, strategic planning, and formal qualifications. But research reveals that achievement depends far more on unconscious patterns of motivation, persistence, and social navigation. Erica's career trajectory illustrates this reality. Her conscious ambitions matter less than her implicit drive toward mastery, a motivation that operates beneath awareness, but sustains effort through inevitable setbacks. This intrinsic motivation doesn't come from deliberate choice, but from early experiences that connected accomplishment with positive emotion. Professional expertise develops primarily through pattern recognition, not explicit rules. As Erica gains experience in business, she develops thin slicing, abilities, rapid, unconscious assessments that integrate vast amounts of information. Her intuitive judgments often prove more accurate than her conscious analysis, reflecting the sophisticated processing of her unconscious mind. Social intelligence proves crucial for career advancement. Erica navigates workplace politics not through calculating strategy, but through unconscious reading of subtle status cues, emotional undercurrents, and relationship dynamics. Her ability to adapt her communication style to different personalities happens largely automatically, drawing on implicit social knowledge. The most successful professionals develop what psychologists call practical intelligence, the ability to read situations and know what to do when formal rules don't apply. This tacit knowledge can't be taught directly. It develops through immersion in professional cultures where values and judgment are transmitted through observation and practice. Brooks challenges the notion that career choices should be based primarily on rational assessment of skills and market demands. Instead, he shows how sustainable success comes from alignment between work and our unconscious motivational patterns. When Erica finds work that engages her implicit drives for autonomy, mastery, and purpose, her productivity and satisfaction naturally increase. Groups and culture. Humans are ultrasocial creatures whose behavior is profoundly shaped by group dynamics operating beneath conscious awareness. Harold and Erica's decisions, from consumer purchases to political views, are influenced by unconscious social conformity far more than they realize. Research demonstrates that we unconsciously adopt the behaviors, emotions, and even physical postures of those around us through automatic mimicry systems. Harold automatically speaks more slowly around Southern colleagues and more quickly in New York, adjustments he makes without deliberate intent. This unconscious synchronization creates social cohesion and shared emotional states. Cultural norms shape behavior not primarily through explicit rules, but through what sociologists call the definition of the situation, implicit understandings of what a context means and how one should behave. Harold perceives and responds differently to identical behaviors depending on whether they occur in a workplace, classroom, or social gathering, guided by unconscious cultural frameworks. Our group identities, whether national, religious, professional, or political, shape perception in profound ways. Studies show that group membership unconsciously biases information processing, leading us to perceive the same facts differently based on our social identities. Harold and Erica both believe they're objectively evaluating political information, unaware of how their group affiliations filter what they find persuasive. These group influences explain why diverse teams often produce better outcomes than collections of the best individuals. Different cultural frameworks bring varied unconscious assumptions and perceptual filters, creating more comprehensive collective intelligence. When Harold works with diverse colleagues, their complementary blind spots and insights lead to superior solutions. Brooks challenges individualistic narratives that portray humans as independent decision-makers. Instead, he reveals how our thoughts and behaviors emerge from social networks that shape us in ways we rarely recognize. Harold and Erica aren't autonomous units making independent choices. They're nodes in social networks that profoundly influence their perceptions, values, and actions. Decision-making. Despite our belief in rational choice, most decisions emerge from unconscious processes that integrate emotional values, social influences, and implicit knowledge. When Harold faces a major career decision, his conscious deliberation represents only a small part of the neural activity determining his choice. Research shows that effective decisions depend on emotional processing. Patients with damage to emotion-generating brain regions make catastrophic practical decisions despite intact reasoning abilities. Their decisions fail because they cannot access the emotional tags that signal which options align with deeper values. Harold's gut feelings about career paths aren't irrational interference. They're sophisticated integration mechanisms drawing on his entire life experience. Many decisions happen through what psychologists call recognition-primed decision-making, pattern matching that identifies situations as similar to previously encountered ones. Experienced firefighters don't consciously weigh options during emergencies. They recognize patterns and know intuitively what to do. Similarly, Harold's most successful decisions often come from unconscious recognition rather than explicit analysis. This explains why analyzing reasons for preferences can actually lead to worse decisions. When people are forced to verbalize why they prefer one option, they focus on easily articulated attributes while neglecting the complex implicit knowledge that often guides better choices. Harold sometimes makes poorer decisions when overthinking disrupts access to his unconscious wisdom. Complex choices benefit from periods of unconscious processing. The sleep on it. Wisdom reflects scientific reality, problem-solving mechanisms continue working beneath awareness, integrating information in ways conscious thought cannot. Harold's breakthrough ideas often arrive after setting problems aside, allowing his unconscious mind to work uninterrupted. Brooks reveals how our cultural emphasis on explicit reasoning neglects the sophisticated unconscious systems that actually guide our most consequential decisions. Harold and Erica make their wisest choices not by ignoring emotions or intuitions, but by integrating these signals with conscious reflection, recognizing that good judgment emerges from the partnership between conscious and unconscious processing. Morality and meaning. Moral judgments emerge primarily from intuitive responses rather than reasoned principles. When Harold encounters ethical dilemmas, his immediate emotional reactions shape his judgments before conscious reasoning begins. These moral intuitions, rapid, automatic responses of approach or avoidance, form the foundation of ethical life. Research shows that moral reasoning often serves as post hoc justification for intuitive judgments rather than the cause of those judgments. When Harold explains his ethical positions, he sincerely believes his reasons came first, unaware that his intuitions typically drive his conclusions. This doesn't make morality irrational, but reveals its roots in emotional responses evolved for social coordination. Our deepest sense of meaning comes not from conscious philosophies, but from experiences of connection that operate beneath explicit awareness. Harold's most profound moments, the birth of his child, achievement of long-sought goals, experiences of natural beauty, create what researchers call elevation, a distinct emotion that transcends ordinary happiness and connects us to something larger than ourselves. Religion and spiritual traditions work partly by creating ritual practices that engage these unconscious moral emotions and meaning systems. Regular participation in religious communities correlates with greater well-being not primarily through conscious beliefs, but through embodied practices and social bonds that satisfy deep unconscious needs for belonging and transcendence. As Harold ages, his sense of meaning shifts from achievement toward generativity, the desire to contribute to future generations. This evolution doesn't happen through philosophical reflection alone, but through neurobiological changes and social experiences that reshape his unconscious motivational systems. His deepest satisfactions come increasingly from nurturing others' growth rather than personal accomplishment. Brooks challenges both secular rationalism and religious literalism, arguing that meaning emerges from the integration of conscious narratives with unconscious emotional and social processes. Harold's most meaningful life isn't achieved through either pure reason or blind faith, but through aligning his conscious values with the unconscious social and emotional systems that truly drive human flourishing. Aging and wisdom. As Harold enters his later years, his brain undergoes predictable changes that create both challenges and opportunities. While processing speed and some forms of memory decline, emotion regulation improves and certain integrative abilities actually strengthen. These neurological shifts create the potential for wisdom, a distinct form of cognition that emerges from the integration of cognitive and emotional systems. Research shows that older adults demonstrate positivity bias, greater attention to positive information, and better emotional regulation during negative experiences. This isn't mere denial, but reflects neural reorganization that prioritizes emotionally meaningful experiences. Harold finds himself less triggered by minor frustrations and more capable of savoring positive moments, changes driven by shifts in his brain's attentional systems. Wisdom manifests partly through pattern recognition across disparate domains. Harold's lifetime of experiences creates rich networks of associations that allow him to perceive connections younger people miss. His understanding becomes simultaneously more specific, recognizing nuanced patterns, and more unified, seeing underlying commonalities across situations, a paradoxical integration characteristic of wisdom. Late-life creativity often involves synthetic thinking that connects previously separate domains. While younger innovators frequently make breakthrough contributions through intensity and specialization, older creators more often generate insights by bridging disparate fields. Harold's late career contributions come less from raw intellectual horsepower and more from seeing connections others miss. As cognitive resources become more limited, older adults often become more selective in their attention and relationships. This socio-emotional selectivity isn't merely compensation for decline, but reflects purposeful prioritization of emotionally meaningful experiences. Harold invests more deeply in fewer relationships, finding greater satisfaction in emotional depth than social breadth. Brooks challenges cultural narratives that frame aging solely as decline, revealing how later life presents unique opportunities for integration and wisdom. Harold's journey illustrates how aging can produce not just loss but transformation, a distinct mode of being that brings its own rewards and contributions. The social animal, synthesizing the unconscious life. Throughout their lives, Harold and Erica's most significant experiences, their deepest loves, most meaningful work, profound moral commitments, and sense of identity emerge primarily from unconscious processes shaped by social connections. Their story reveals humans not as autonomous rational actors, but as fundamentally social creatures whose minds develop and function in constant interaction with others. This understanding challenges several powerful cultural myths. The rational choice model of human behavior, central to economics, education, and public policy, fundamentally misrepresents how decisions actually emerge. The individualistic narrative of success through personal effort overlooks how achievement depends on social networks and unconscious patterns laid down through relationships. Even our conception of consciousness reflects a cultural bias toward verbalized knowledge over the equally sophisticated, but implicit understanding that guides most behavior. Brooks offers a humane vision that integrates conscious and unconscious dimensions of experience. While the unconscious mind primarily drives our lives, consciousness plays crucial roles in directing attention, constructing narratives that create coherence, and occasionally overriding automatic patterns when they lead astray. Harold and Erica's most fulfilling moments come not from privileging either reason or emotion, but from integrating both into a harmonious whole. This integration offers profound implications for how we structure education, work, politics, and communities. Educational systems might emphasize emotional and social development alongside intellectual skills. Workplaces could design environments that engage intrinsic motivations rather than relying exclusively on external incentives. Political discourse might acknowledge the moral intuitions and group identities that shape policy preferences beneath ideological justifications. Perhaps most importantly, this understanding fosters humility. Recognizing how much of our lives operates beyond conscious control challenges the illusion of complete self-authorship. Harold's journey culminates not in total self-mastery, but in grateful awareness of how his life has been shaped by forces larger than himself, biological inheritances, cultural traditions, and most importantly, the countless relationships that formed his unconscious mind. This humble integration, not eliminating unconscious influences, but bringing them into partnership with conscious understanding, represents the highest expression of human potential. The truly developed person isn't one who has conquered emotion with reason, but one who has aligned multiple systems of knowing into a coherent whole. Conclusion: the integrated life. In exploring the unconscious foundations of human life, Brooks ultimately argues for integration rather than the triumph of any single mental system. Harold and Erica's most meaningful achievements and deepest satisfactions come not from privileging reason over emotion, conscious over unconscious, or individual over social, but from bringing these dimensions into harmony. This integrated vision offers a more humane understanding of human flourishing than models that emphasize rationality alone. It recognizes that we are inherently emotional and social creatures whose unconscious systems contain profound wisdom alongside occasional biases. It suggests that development involves not overcoming our social nature, but refining and directing the unconscious patterns that emerge from our connectedness. The truly developed person isn't one who has achieved complete conscious control, an impossible goal, but one who has aligned multiple systems of knowing into a coherent whole. This alignment creates a distinctive kind of freedom, not independence from unconscious influences, but the capacity to direct them toward consciously chosen ends. Brooks challenges us to recognize and value the entirety of our mental architecture. Our highest human possibilities emerge not from denying our social and emotional nature, but from embracing it, integrating reason with intuition, conscious goals with unconscious motivations, and individual achievements with social connections. The richest human life is one that honors both the visible and hidden dimensions of our nature. If you've enjoyed this exploration of the unconscious mind and its profound influence on our lives, please support our channel by liking this video, subscribing for more in-depth book summaries, and sharing your thoughts in the comments below. What aspects of the unconscious mind do you find most fascinating? Have you noticed how your own unconscious processes shape your decisions and relationships? Join the conversation and continue your journey into understanding the full depth of human nature. Remember, you can purchase David Brooks' complete work through the link in the description below. Until next time, keep exploring the hidden dimensions of what makes us truly social animals.